The Body Swap and Why It Matters, a video essay. Throughout the beginning of time, the human race has pondered the important question of what it would be like to trade places with another person. Not just the act of one person living another's life, but becoming them entirely, by their conscience being transported to one another's bodies. This is the true act of a body swap. Lesser beings would think it okay to just trade places with another, but this is simply not the case. When people go down this unfortunate road, it leads to international incidents like Celebrity Wife Swap, which was made infamous when Mick Foley was forced to get a haircut, which wasn't okay then, and it's not okay now. Mick Foley needs his hair to fully body swap with Santa and give Bill Murray the gift of a Garfield movie that is worse than his. So, people will stop talking about it. This leads me to the main topic of this essay, which is of course body swapping and why it matters, which was proven by the episode of Garfield and Friends, Fair Exchange. This episode could probably be analyzed for centuries or even days before the most robust of scholars could even dream of recontextualizing it to fit within the standards of a modern society, which is what I plan to do within the next couple of minutes. How, you might ask, is this even possible? Well, unfortunately, just like with body swapping itself, it is not. But breaking beyond the barriers of reality is exactly what YouTube was created for in the first place, and is where I plan to take us all in this very important discovery of how to body swap. But Garfield's episode featuring this concept not only fully executes the notion, but completely subverts the conventions of the entire medium. You might be thinking that this makes sense, but that is where you would be completely wrong. This is merely an impressionistic view, and I am missing the forest for the trees. So, in order to dig deeper, we must first burn this forest to the ground, which is a horrible analogy. Plus, the episode of Garfield and Friends, Fair Exchange, might seem like a reductive example of the body swap concept in motion, and it is. So, it was a poor choice for the topic of this video, but we are in far too deep to turn back now. This, of course, is not true, but I need you to think it is to overinflate the importance of this video. Speaking of this video, the sponsor of this video is Air. Air. You breathe it to live. I really use it. See? End of on camera bit. Goodbye. The feedback loop employed in this video is hardly a frivolous notion. It is simply me employing the same reductive ideology as Garfield would in this situation, which is hardly a good thing, so I need to swap tactics immediately. Swap, like a body swap. When a body swap occurs, your true face has been obfuscated. You are now a lie, much like this video. Truth is in the eye of the beholder, but what your eye is now beholding is a lie. The perpetual truth of who you really are can only be made apparent by the reversal of this situation. Body swapping is not something to be taken lightly. Once you commit to this concept, you've gone through the looking glass and there is no going back. Unless you remember to create an escape clause. Much like the Santa Claus from 1994, starring Tim Allen, who, upon murdering Santa, woke to find himself facing mirror images that were not his own, and driven by an unknown force to change history for the better. This also fits in with the whole body swap concept, except this is just a body transformation, as proven when Martin Short's Jack Frost decided to kill this new Santa and show Tim Allen how easily it was done. Unfortunately for him, he forgot it was not done. And considering Tim Allen's grunts made on the situational comedy named Home Improvement, I cannot fully endorse the ideas or the conceit behind the Santa Claus. This is a true divergence between art and the artist. This was also a pointless diversion from the main subject of this video, and I really didn't have time for this. I needed to get back to the central thesis of this video. There were many secrets to be found within the fair exchange, and I needed to get myself back on track, but my writing would just not allow for this. I am writing this video on a Friday. Yes, that is correct. Freaky Friday. A story about a body swap. Coincidence? Most likely, but I do not believe in the coincidence. According to Merriam-Webster, a coincidence is the act or condition of coinciding, correspondence, or the occurrence of events that happen at the same time by accident but seem to have some connection. Does this remind you of anything? That's right. This is the very definition of coincidence. Coincidence? Most likely, but I do not believe in the coincidence. Just like I don't believe in art. Art is subjective, and we could go down the river of no return just trying to dare to even slightly contemplate the idea or notion of thinking about trying to give even the briefest analysis of art and how it relates to the human condition. A condition that could be swapped out at any moment by the body swap. But no matter what body you currently inhabit, the window to your mind will always be there. Your mind to my mind, my thoughts to your thoughts. These were the famous words said by Dr. Spock on November 3rd, 1966. And even though they are outdated and meaningless today, they still hold just as much relevance now as they did back then. Spockathon was a main character from the planet Vulcan on the science fiction television series Star Trek, the original series. And what was the very last episode of this series? Turnabout Intruder, which featured a body swap. Coincidence? Most likely, but I do not believe in the coincidence. The episode Turnabout Intruder was first originally broadcast and aired upon the date of June 3rd, 1969. But, very uninterestingly, was remastered August 2nd, 2008. If we subtract these two dates, we get February 1st, 39 AD. A very important date indeed. This was, of course, the year of consulship of Augustus and Cassianus. And what show had a modern depiction of the Roman Empire? That's correct, none other than Star Trek, the original series, in the episode Bread and Circuses. And what was the last episode of Star Trek about? That's right, a body swap. It all comes full circle. Just like the circular motion of swapping bodies, this almost works as a meta-commentary on the entire genre itself. You are not who you think you are. Just something to think about if your mind is still in fact in your own body, which it very likely isn't. This circular talk may in fact sound profound, but in reality it is not. It is all just a device I am using to add length to the video and lead you back to where we once started. This can be thought of as a commentary on the entire process of you watching this video itself. Where is any of this taking you? Are you learning from this experience? What sort of growth or progress has been made? The answer is nothing has been accomplished here. We have made a complete turnabout. In Turnabout Intruder, Captain Kirk learns that Garfield likes to dance and cannot handle this information. He goes to see an ex-girlfriend named Janice Lester, who suggests a body swap so that William Shatner can chew every bit of scenery possible. Kirk says that he doesn't know how that will aid him with this issue, but agrees, and art is created. I kind of refuse to see this episode as the art piece it truly is, though, as it refuses to reconceptualize the problem of body swapping and why it is an abomination.
You will obey my orders! Will be charged with mutiny?
According to Wikipedia, mutiny is a revolt among a group of people, typically of a military, of a crew, or of a crew of pirates to oppose, change, or remove superiors or their orders. Pirates. Why does that sound so familiar? Could it be a lovable fat orange cat once dressed as a pirate for Halloween? There was only one way to find out. Attempt a body swap with my cat, Ziggy. Only then would I learn the true indignity of being held, snuggled, and having to defecate into a box. This, of course, was a giant risk to take, but the monetization of a video on YouTube was at stake here. I had no other alternative besides not making this video, but if I took that path, you wouldn't be hearing this line I am currently saying, and we simply could not have that. After the papers were drawn up, Ziggy and I discussed how freaky having our minds swapped into each other's bodies would be. So, this was in fact a mind swap and not a body swap, just like on the show Quantum Leap, where it clearly had to be a body swap when Sam did things like stand with no legs. Quantum Leap? Ziggy? It was all beginning to make sense. Or was it all just beginning to fall apart? Just like with art, it was all subjective. After being my cat for a month, I was beginning to get freaked out. Freaked, as in Freaky Friday, the day I am currently writing these words. Freaky Friday from 2003 was about a mother, played by Jamie Lee Curtis, and a daughter, played by Lindsay Lohan, swapping bodies. This was naturally due to a magical Chinese fortune cookie. Absolute poppycock, I thought as I dreamed about cat food. wasn't I a cat once before? Or was that just a stupid plot in a video? I didn't have time for this. I needed to get back to the central thesis of this video. Why was it so hard to talk about an episode of Garfield and Friends where John and Garfield switched places? This question kept ringing through my head as I remembered Freaky Friday 2003 was a remake of Freaky Friday 1976, which starred a mother, played by Barbara Harris, and a daughter, played by Jodie Foster, swapping bodies. Instead of it all being because of a cookie, this faithful adaptation of the story is all because of Jason Voorhees and his favorite day, Friday the 13th. A magical day where anything can happen, including me possibly getting to the point and talking about the episode of Garfield and Friends, Fair Exchange. An exchange? As in a body swap? Did they name the episode after what it was about? That was so crazy, it had to be true. And the truth shall set you free. Free, like in a free meal? Garfield gets free meals. Was this going somewhere? I wasn't sure, but the words kept coming out. Garfield loves to eat. And you know who else loves to eat? Goku. And you know what happened to him once? A body swap. Goku and Captain Ginyu swapped bodies, and Goku learned an important lesson about what it was like to be a random loser alien who doesn't have the built-in cheat codes of being a Saiyan. You know, just saying. Of course, Goku didn't really learn this lesson. He never learns lessons, just like Garfield. Goku and Garfield are great examples of hyper-individualism. That's what we get for living in a capitalist society. Unless you don't happen to live in one, in which case disregard anything I've ever said ever. Goku and Garfield. The letter G. The 7th letter of the alphabet. 7. The 7th guest. What can happen with a guest over time? A bond may form, resulting in friendship. Friendship? Again? In another time and place, Goku and Garfield could have been great friends. 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 The word kept echoing in my mind, which I couldn't even remember which body was in anymore. I couldn't even think at all anymore, except for the fact of how little Friends made sense in the title of Garfield and Friends. A friend, as defined by Google, is a noun, plural noun, friends, or plural noun, friends. A person whom one knows, and with whom has a bond of mutual affection. With whom one has a bond of mutual affection. I am repeating this to make it sound really profound, even though I'm just reading a definition. I've once heard a friend is someone you can open up to when you feel like you're ready to flip. Now, Garfield seemed to have no such connection with any of the barnyard animals from the U.S. Acres, also known as Orson's Farm, segments of his show. To try and understand how this unforgivable error occurred, I read the original novel of Garfield and Friends, and was shocked to discover none of the U.S. Acres characters appeared in any of the books. Garfield's friends in these books were simply just that, his actual friends. Like Odie, who he is enemies with, except when he has to admit it, Odie's okay. And we all thought for a long time that Garfield hated Nermal, the kitten, until the original movie told us that Nermal wasn't a kitten, and instead was a Siamese cat who was Garfield's best friend.
Why?
Gee, I don't know, Nermal.
And Arlene is just such a friend to Garfield that she's Garfield's girlfriend. Except in Garfield and Friends, where she is largely replaced by Penelope. It seemed I was on the verge of uncovering one of the world's largest conspiracies, but I didn't have time for this. I need to get back to the central thesis of this video, the episode Fair Exchange, where the title card is a complete lie, as John and Garfield do not share any features of each other's faces like this would seem to indicate, but instead have had their heads swapped. This was as deep as a body swap could go. The importance of this video goes far beyond body swapping in ways I cannot and will not bother explaining. But we'll lead you around in circles in such a way you will forget that it's not nearly as meaningful as I am attempting to make it out to be. However, your intellectual curiosity must be sated. But I just didn't have time for overanalyzing pointless details like this. I didn't even have time to be making this video with how much time I need to pour into the making of this video. These would seem to be contradictory statements, but the lack of sense being made is how the true essence of art was formed. We don't have time to be making sense when true art is in fact the antithesis of logic. Garfield has no time for Spock, just like I had no time to be spewing such nonsense. Did it ever occur to you that in the original telling of Garfield the cat, he was actually quite fat? And over time, he actually got less and less fat, yet everyone still refused to see this. We cannot believe our eyes. Sometimes they will lie to us. The person we perceive to be seeing may in fact have another person's mind inside it. It's all about a fair exchange. Fair exchange. Fair exchange. Rare explains. It's all about moving beyond our reality and accepting that science fiction was in fact just science. Fiction is a concept for the weak, like John Arbuckle. Have you ever noticed that Garfield directly communicates with John using telepathy? This was made abundantly clear when Garfield and John swapped bodies in the episode of Garfield and Friends, Fair Exchange, where John, inside Garfield's body, was finally able to realize the power inside and communicate with his thoughts, where Garfield was relegated to using the sloppy verbal communication that us humans are so accustomed to. Garfield the cat's telepathy is one of his many powers that he would display on occasion. But he usually chose not to, for he was far more powerful than we could ever imagine. Garfield could even body swap. He could even body swap. Body swap. Body swap. This was the smoking gun I was looking for. A body swap in a video supposedly discussing a body swap. I think I might just be onto perhaps the most important discovery in human history here. But this was getting dangerously close to being on topic. I just didn't have time for this. To really delve into an area that seems like it relates but doesn't, I had to go deeper, where only a Greek VCD of the Garfield and Friends episode Fair Exchange could take me.
Garfield, chodruli gatuli, stamata epitelus natros. Garfield,
This intro was completely different. It was like it was trying to commit Friends erasure, which is totally fine with me, because these were not true friends at all. This was all a lie. A lie, a lie, a lie. I was a lie. This video was a lie. But in the lie was the purest form of truth, and that is where the art of the body swap does not enter the equation. It is at this point I must inform you that this video was intellectually bankrupt and I'm cashing out. What I am at least hoping I've accomplished with this video is provide a little verisimilitude, but given absolutely everything I have said in it, that doesn't seem possible. In closing, I want to leave you with a quote that sums up this entire video essay. Big fat hairy deal. This video wasn't long enough, so unfortunately it's a reductive example of a video essay parody or something, I don't know.